Perfect. Great. So my name is Brandon Vickard, and I'm a professor in the Department of Visual Arts and Art History and Dean of the School of Arts, Media, and Performance and Design. And in May, I'm going to be teaching PANF 3030, 5030 Global Arts Eco-Arts Residency with my colleague Laura Levin, who teaches on the program Theater, Dance, and Performance. This will be the third time we've taught the course, and we're very, very excited about this class. So the focus of this course is to introduce students to the practice and process of developing community-engaged art projects centered on concerns of ecological justice in a setting outside of the traditional university program. So really, we've developed this class because we've noticed in the last decade or so, there's been a proliferation of residency programs for emerging artists. These are situations where musicians or theater performers or visual artists are invited into communities to engage in communities in a practice of making collaborative art projects. So it seemed like a really great opportunity to develop a course that introduces students to this practice and introduces them to the discipline of how you go into a community, how you work with a community to develop a project. I always like to stress that this course is focused around arts production. It is an AMPD course, but it is open to students from across the university. So you don't necessarily need to be an artist to take this class. It's also geared towards undergraduate and graduate students. So if you're in your third or fourth year of undergrad, if you're a PhD candidate, if you're a graduate student, we are open to having you participate in this class. It is a 10-day long intensive course that takes place at York's Las Nubes campus, but we also spend a bit of time in San Jose before we go to the campus. So for us, it's really important for students who kind of come to the course and experience this kind of community initiative to understand what it is to make art in San Jose compared to what it is to make art in Toronto. So we spend the first 2 days in San Jose, which is the capital city of Costa Rica. We visit the Contemporary Art Gallery. We visit an artist archive, artist-run center called Ticorita. We visit Satisfactory, which is also an artist-run residency program. We visit the National Theater of Costa Rica, and we connect with some local artists to do some creative exercises in the city. So you get this real sense of what it is to be an artist in the urban center of San Jose. And then for the remaining 8 days of the class, we travel to the Las Nubes campus, where we meet and work with, farmers, community members. We visit some indigenous artists. We do some workshops and basically learn what it is to kind of interact with the community and the surrounding area with the end goal of producing a community festival at the end of the class. So on the screen now, you just see some images from San Jose that the National Gallery is on the left, which we visit. We also, travel the streets and see what the community is doing in the streets and occasionally come across theater troupes. And then we also go to Ticoreca, which is like an artist residency / archive where they welcome us in and talk about, what people do in the community there. When we go to Las Nubes, though, it is really centered on co-producing a collaborative project that is this Ex-Cobos festival, which happens on the last 2 days of the course. So basically on the Saturday and Sunday, we work with the community to stage a festival. So we're supporting them in this endeavor. So sometimes this looks like students working with community members to develop murals. Sometimes it's producing musical acts. Sometimes it's simply helping set up for the festival. But we kind of integrate ourselves into the community and put ourselves in service to supporting this kind of creative festival as a way of like promoting culture in the community and contributing to this community that has supported York University students for so long. Now, as part of this course, there are some very clear learning objectives that we introduce students to. We introduce them to these objectives through, course readings, course conversation, visits to community members, visits to, farmers and other locations, but also through discussions of the readings that take place on a daily basis. It's really important for students to understand that this is unlike any other studio class you're going to take at York, where you might show up for a painting class or a music class for 4 hours and then you leave. With this class, it is really intensive. So you show up at the campus and we might hop on the bus and travel to go visit a farmer for a couple of hours, then eat lunch on the road, then come back to campus where we might go on a hike, we might discuss some readings, But essentially your whole day is programmed for, those solid 8 hours. You're spending the time with the other students in the class. You're engaging in conversation and also in creative production. So a large part of this class is also doing like creative exercises on the campus as a way of responding to the environment and responding to the community. At the end of the class, you're going to be evaluated on a couple of things, such as participation. There's also a student presentation. There's a journal you're expected to keep, and a final project. One thing I want to stress is that the final project is not due in this class. You're given a couple of weeks after the course to submit a proposal for your final project, and then your final project is usually submitted a month after the class ends. So although there is that 10-day intensive period of the class, your final creative work or your final creative essay is handed in weeks later. So you do have some time when you return to Canada to, basically work on that project and then submit it for grades. That kind of brings me to the end of my presentation, but I do just want to emphasize that, we're open to anybody taking this class. And if you have specific questions or concerns about like what you're going to experience in the content of this class, then I am going to put my email address in the chat, and you can reach out to me at any point in time. I'm happy to meet with students, whether they're undergrad or grad, and discuss, the logistics of the course, discuss, what their specific skill sets are coming into the course. I'm always aware that students, especially coming from visual arts or theater or the School of the Arts, Media, Performance, and Design, always ask questions like, what kind of materials are we going to be using? Should I bring my oboe? Should I bring my guitar? These are discussions we can have. Generally speaking, all the materials and equipment you're going to need to be successful in the class, we're going to provide to you. But we also encourage students to think about like, maybe a camera or a small musical instrument that they might want to bring as part of the class. When we get to the course-specific information session after you register in April, then we can talk specifically about the logistics of like what kind of creative activities we're going to do and how you might want to prepare for them. So I'll pass it back over to you, Anna.